Welcome to Champions League Volley 2022. Whether your team is looking to win their first, trying to earn redemption, or go back-to-back, this is a tournament you won't want to miss. The Champions League group stage starts Tuesday, November the 23rd.
What's up, volleyball fans? Welcome back. This is the European Volleyball Show. Welcome. My name is Rob. That's Dan joining me from Luxembourg. Very excited for this one, episode 3 of the Champions League season, breaking down the match of the week. THY Istanbul versus Dinamo Moscow women's. Huge match this week, Dan, in a very stacked Champions League pool. It might be too early to call this, but it might be a must-win for both teams, THY in particular. I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, for sure, Rob. Great to be here once again from Luxembourg. I'm really liking this format, Rob, getting to preview the match of the week. It's really exciting to talk about week by week this Champions League match. And like you said, we've got a great one here today. Maybe not like the top elite teams, no Vakifbank, no Caneliano today, but still, like you said, a lot of reasons to get into this match.
Absolutely. We are looking at the live chat here on YouTube. Let us know if you have any questions. Let us know where you're watching from, who you're rooting for, who you think is going to win, THY or Dinamo Moscow. The match starts in just about half an hour. It is live on YouTube, so we will preview the match right here, and then we'll all hop over to watch the match together, which is really cool. I love doing that every week. Yeah, thanks for tuning in. Hit the video with a thumbs up and subscribe to this YouTube channel if you are not already. Dan, where do you want to start with this thing? There's a lot to get to.
Yeah, for sure. So why don't we're doing some research before the show. Why don't we get into start with maybe Istanbul, talk about how they've been doing in the league so far. So actually pretty interesting for them the last few matches. 3 5-setters in a row for THY Istanbul. So it's a lot of volleyball for them over the past few weeks, including a loss in their last match in the Champions League as well.
Right, yeah, losing 3-0 to Novara 2 weeks ago. That was a big match. I had the stats pulled up from it. The reason why I'm calling this a very early must-win for THY is because Dinamo Moscow is so good, and they're just going to have to come back in the return leg and play both Moscow and Novara again. And really, as we look at the format of Champions League, as we kind of do every year, unless you win your pool, if you're really trying to make it out to the quarterfinals, the round of 8, you're going to need to be one of those second place teams. And typically 4-2 is the mark that will usually get it done out of those second place teams. So you can really only afford to lose 2 matches in Champions League. And THY does not want to lose their first 2 matches and have to run the table the rest of the way.
Yeah, that's extremely difficult to come out losing your first 2 matches. But Rob, I think there's a lot that Istanbul can be positive about for this match. I mean, if we go into kind of the strategy that they've run with so far, they are the best receiving team in Turkey at 32%, even above teams like Vakifbank and Chetzabatsi, and against some really good servers, as you know, in Istanbul with Tiana Boskovic and, a very strong serving lineup in Turkey. So, and then they receive well, and then it's all up to Kiera Van Rijk to score the points. She's scoring 5 points per set in Turkey right now. One of the most efficient attackers in the league too. And I'm not just saying this because I'm Canadian, Kiera Van Rijk, representing Canada in the Turkish league, but she really is one of the most dynamic opposites in a league with some of the best opposites in the world.
Absolutely, yeah. The Turkish league is absolutely just loaded with opposites. Isabel Haak, Tiana Boskovic, like among the absolute best in the world. And Kiera Van Rijk is right up there. And the counterpoint to that is that sometimes THY kind of goes as she goes, where if she's not really having a great day, they really struggle to score points. But it is really cool to see Kiera Van Rijk make a jump to this next level for like a club of this elite caliber, and a club that really went out and made some huge moves in the offseason. Like they got 3rd in the Turkish league last year, knew they were coming to Champions League after not even making the finals of CV Challenge Cup a year ago, and they really overhauled their roster. Like they're a huge foreigner presence. Like you can see who we think will be the starters there on the screen. Like only 2 Turkish players in the starting 7, which is uncommon for a top domestic league team like this.
Yeah, well, I still believe Tori Dixon. We're still waiting on if she'll be able to play today or not, because I believe she didn't play in the last match. Yeah, somebody in the chat says American spiker versus Canadian. True. It's definitely a lot of Canadians and Americans on the team. Of course, American setter Lauren Carlini also on Istanbul, doing a great job there. But yeah, what do you think about Lauren's play so far this season, Rob?
It's been really interesting because she's gotten to go head to head against the other really elite American female setters. Well, she played Micah Hancock of Novara in Champions League. I don't know if she'll get a chance to play Jordan Poulter or Busto Arsizio, but that storyline is a fun one to talk about for sure. Carlini's been good. She and Kira Van Rijk's connection has been outstanding. She can block, she can serve, she can attack the ball on two occasionally. But against a team of Dinamo Moscow's, it's just the classic Russian size, blocking, service pressure, just bombers all over the court. She's going to have an interesting task to kind of spread Dinamo Moscow's blockers around, and a very different style challenge for THY than Novara was in Champions League. So it's always fun to not only normalize the levels of play across Europe, but the different styles that come from the different leagues.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't think we can judge them too much against their play against Novara, because Novara, as we've seen in the Italian league and in the Champions League so far, is an extremely, extremely difficult opponent, especially in terms of block defense. We saw Kira Van Rijk go 12 for 38 with 5 errors for 18% efficiency in that match. So as you said earlier, Rob, this team goes as Kira Van Rijk goes on offense for the most part. And as you saw, when she struggles like that, they're going to lose 3-0.
And they lost 3-0 to Novara, but those were all close sets, like 21-22 and then 26-24. So it's not like they got blown out by any means. But yeah, if that 18% from Van Rijk becomes like 28 or 30%, I think it's a completely different match.
For sure. For sure. So why don't we go on to the other side of the net, Rob, and talk a bit about Moscow here, who, interestingly enough, is not having the strongest season, in my opinion, in Russia. They've had a pretty easy schedule so far. 6-3 on this season sounds all right. However, only one of those games is against, or only one of those wins is against a team with a record, against a team with a winning record. So five wins against very easy opponents there in Russia. So maybe I think the record doesn't indicate like how strong of a team they are, at least at this point of the season.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that speaks a little bit to the rest of the Russian league, playing maybe a little bit better than we expected. But Dinamo Moscow, after getting second place in the league last year, like they lost a crazy 5-setter in the championship. They expected to come back and be at that level immediately again. You've got Natalia Goncharova, who's one of the best of all time, who's ridiculous. You've got Elitsa Fedorovtseva, that's incorrect. Excuse me, Vasileva, the Bulgarian.
Yeah.
The Russian names get me sometimes. Yeah, Elitsa Vasileva, the only foreigner that sees really significant playing time for Moscow. They've got Edina Begic from Bosnia-Herzegovina, but other than that, it's strictly Russians. So Vasileva and Goncharova are clearly the two big point scorers. They won their first match 2 weeks ago in Champions League pretty easily against Liberec from the Czech Republic. That was a pretty comfortable 3-0. Looking at the stat sheet, yeah, Goncharova 25 attempts, Vasileva 22 attempts. That's kind of the story for Moscow so far.
Yeah, so Goncharova 5th in the league in Russia in scoring at 5 points per set on 44% attacking percentage. And then Elitsa Vasileva 25th in the league in scoring with 4.2 on 45%. So pretty good efficiency there from those two players. And, like you said, Goncharova, I think 15 for 25 in the last one against Liberec. However, I will say Liberec probably not a little bit of a weaker block defense than we're going against here against Istanbul. But yeah, those two players, definitely the offensive engines. So I guess a bit more balanced than Istanbul, because they definitely have two players who can get it done. And also Krotkova, a pretty great offensive player as well. There's some good mentions in the chat, though. Keeler says, Dinamo has lost Akbars and Lokomotiv, who are the best team, two of the best teams in Russia, but they have won their last 3 games very comfortably. However, against weaker opponents.
Right. But it still says a lot to be hot in Champions League, and that's why I think this match is so interesting. This is one of the pools, or probably the pool on the women's side, that jumped off to me as the most competitive. Like, we can check out the pools here. I know it's really early. This is only the second match of Champions League, but I think that pool C, has 3 teams that could legitimately win the pool. And I really think it's the only pool where you can say that on the women's side. And there's one similar pool on the men's side where you've got 3 legitimate contenders. So they're all going to really beat up on one another. So Dinamo took advantage of the match against Liberec, who's definitely the weakest of the 4. And then THY Novara was just a crazy battle. So that's exactly how this pool has gone. And this one will have a lot to do with who ends up making it out, whether it's first or second. We still don't know.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely a very important match. Going to be a big battle between Novara Istanbul. There's some good questions in the chat here, Rob. Some great conversation going on here, guys. Love when the chat interacts with each other as well, when we have some good conversation. But Rob, what do you think of overall the competition in Turkey versus Russia as a league? Because in my opinion, the 9-3 for Istanbul is a little bit more impressive than the 6-3 for Dinamo Moscow.
I definitely agree with that. We've got a little bit more sample size so far in Turkey, just more matches have been played. And yeah, really the top 5 teams in Turkey are all really, really outstanding. And it's not like we've seen in Italy where Conegliano's been largely untouchable. And then there's a group of very good teams right behind them, even though they did lose earlier this week. But even Vakifbank has been beatable at the top. They're still in first place in the league, but Vakifbank and Satsibasi, Fenerbahce, THY, and then Galatasaray are all pretty elite caliber teams. So like the top 5 there are as good as any top 5 anywhere in the world, and that's Italy included. I think that, plus a little bit further down the line with all those teams continuing to separate themselves from the rest, I think being 9-3 in that league, I agree, is a little bit more impressive than 6-3 in Russia.
Yeah, I agree with that. Rob, what do you think is the matchup of the day today? Who's going to be the difference makers?
I think it's Carlini for THY. Like I was mentioning a little bit earlier as we were talking about her, she's going to have to find some more like volume offensive production from one other place other than Kiera Van Rijk, I think. And if Van Rijk gets to about the 30% efficiency mark, that's a tremendously good sign for THY. But I would love to see her be able to run a lot more middle in this match than she did last time. Middle attacking attempts were extremely low. Let me double check the exact number. Less than 20 in 3 sets. I would like to see them really try to push the middle a little bit more, separating like in front or behind the setter. And then I think Maddie Kingdon is ready to produce a little bit more at that level, along with Kiera Van Rijk offensively. So I think that, and it's exactly like we talked about the other week with Vakifbank and Monza. It starts from the service reception game if they're able to run that middle part of the offense. So I like you talked about THY's strength in receiving efficiency. I think that will open up their offense to let Carlini do what she wants a little bit more, and she's really going to have to run the show against a good blocking team.
And do you think Dinamo Moscow is going to be able to have enough serving pressure to take the best receiving team in Turkey off their game?
I do think so. It's what Russian teams do the best. I think they'll figure out who to serve, how to serve, and when to serve hard versus not as hard. They've got a couple jump spin servers. They've got some variety. I think that's going to be one of the crucial battles. Yeah, how can THY hang in there? They've really seen it all from the service line in Turkey. It's just going to be about executing that strength of their game against a different opponent. For
sure. So Carlini and the middles are obviously going to be very important. But as we discussed earlier, this team relying on Kiera Van Rijk so much, and she's not guaranteed to have a good match, especially, especially the last few matches. And Salim Elkan just commented the player who I was going to pick, but Maddie Kingdon, like you mentioned earlier, I think she's going to be a super important player because I think the block of Dinamo Moscow is going to key in on Kiera Van Rijk so much, and she's a fantastic player. Take another step this year, but I think they're going to need a bit more of a release valve for Kiera Van Rijk, especially, like you said, if Dinamo Moscow's serving tough and they're out of system a bit more. And I don't think the second outside hitter for THY Istanbul is going to be able to do that. So I think it's going to be up to Maddie Kingdon. And I think someone said earlier, Semi Erkan, it might be the other outside hitter. And I think she might be in for defensive purposes as well. I agree with that. But those secondary outside hitters for Istanbul are going to have a tough time to match the production of Elitsa Vasilieva.
Yeah, Dobriana Rabajieva, Bulgarian outside hitter, is the other outside for THY. Yeah, she's much further down the list in attacking attempts, actually more in the neighborhood of how many sets their middles see. So she's definitely more of a ball control player. Yeah, I mean, if you look at Dinamo Moscow, they have 2 big weapons. right? They've got Goncharova and they've got Vasileva. And I think in general in the women's game, you've got to have at least 2. And if you have 3, then you're really an elite contender in either club or national team. So I agree. I think it might be Maddie Kingdon's turn to step up and be that second big offensive presence for THY.
Yeah. So guys, just a reminder, the match starts here on YouTube in 15 minutes. Warm-ups will start even sooner, so we'll get to that soon enough, happening right here on European Volleyball YouTube. Rob, do you want to make your predictions and then maybe talk a bit about the rest of the Champions League week?
We'll talk about the rest of it first and then make our picks at the very end. I like to say that till last.
Sure.
So elsewhere around Champions League this week, yesterday Dinamo Kazan beat Béziers in a pretty good 4-setter. Dinamo Kazan, the people were talking about them in the chat about the battles at the top of the Russian league. So that was pretty impressive and important to get a full 3 points there. Also later today, you got Dresdner take them on Lokomotiv Kaliningrad. So a lot of the likely really competitive matches this week involving Russian teams. And then tomorrow on YouTube, you've got Nira Gaza from Hungary taking on the defending champions in Imoko Corneliano. I don't know if that will be the most thrilling match of the Champions League, but it is available on YouTube. And Dan, while we're talking about Corneliano, it's a very interesting week for them as their win streak is over. 76 matches in a row coming to an end last week.
I know. I think the thing it shows, Rob, how much of this stuff is mental, right? Because they were going for that record. They knew it. They have it marked on their calendar. They had it circled. Okay, this is what we need for the record. And, maintaining that level of play for 76 games, the level of effort and consistency it requires is incredible. I remember talking to some of the Corneliano players at the Superfinals and just the discipline that the team had all together, not going out and partying, practicing, getting early to practice, putting in those extra little things that make a huge difference over an entire season. That's the kind of discipline you need, and no one can blame them, I think, for letting their feet off the gas a bit after that legendary win streak.
Totally, yeah. They tied the record at 73. They broke the record at 74, and I was talking on several different shows, like, all right, how far are they going to go? They're going to get to 100? Are they going to get to 90? Whatever. Then they probably lose one at 76. But I actually think it's a good thing. Wasn't it Gudetti of Vakipenk who said, yeah, like you learn the most from losing, and losing can be the most positive thing for a team. I think in this case for Corneliano, it's a release of pressure. It's just one more external factor that they don't really have to worry about anymore. They got the record, and they got just a little bit of a cushion past tying the record. And now they just don't have to worry about it anymore. Now they can just go out and think about each match and think of their goals more long-term than having the pressure of continuing the win streak on them for each individual match. And like last Wednesday, they played Firenze. They lost in 5. That was a kind of a confusing loss to a middle-of-the-pack team. They didn't play a lot of their starters. And then they came back against Perugia this past weekend in a match that I commentated in Italy, and they absolutely wiped the floor with them. So they came back and they still played a lot of their reserves and just looked completely dominant. So I really do think it was probably a good thing for Corneliano to lose, at least at some point, in a match that isn't like a playoff match. And I don't think that loss was a signaling of the changing of the guard in any way, or that they're like about to be knocked off the pedestal that they've held for 76 matches. I don't think that was it. I think it was just a little bit of a head scratcher, and then they rebounded immediately. And I expect them to do the same thing tomorrow in Champions League.
For sure. And I think you did see the proportion of 5-set matches increase as time went on. There were a few close calls.
A lot of 5-set matches. There were a lot of close calls, and some of them should not have been close calls. And then,
including the Champions League finals.
Agreed. That was an extremely close call. Like literally the fingernail of a block touch that won it for him on match points. About as close as it gets.
For sure. So Rob, out of the matches that we have left, obviously it seems to be a lot of first place teams versus potential fourth place teams. But is there one that you can pick as the biggest potential for, let's say, an upset?
I'm looking at that Dresdner versus Lokomotiv match later today. That pool has been really competitive. You've got Rzeszów in there as well from Poland. I don't know if any of those 3 teams is going to win the Champions League, but it is, I think, the next closest thing to Pool C that we're talking about in our featured match here, that you have a chance of actually any of those 3 teams to go out and win the pool. And so this one later today will be really interesting. If you want to watch it, it'll be on Eurovolley.tv. Because let's see, Dresdner beat Zhezhov in a 5-setter or lost last week. I can't remember. I know it went 5, and then Lokomotiv started off well, but that battle will be one of the closest, and I actually don't even know how to pick a favorite in that one, and that's probably the only one of the week where I don't know how to pick.
Yeah, Dresner lost in 5 sets. But like you said, very close match. Kaliningrad, as we discussed earlier, though, #1 team in Russia, I believe, without any losses so far. So that's a pretty dominant for them. But I do agree. I do really like Dresner. I do think that's probably the biggest chance of an upset, but also maybe keep an eye on Monza versus Mulhouse as well.
I don't know if I see Monza losing to Mulhouse, but I thought Monza actually looked pretty good 2 weeks ago against Vakitbank. They took a set and they played a kind of a weird lineup. So I expect them to play up to their level of expectation this time.
All right. Are there any questions in the chat that you want to go over, Rob, before we get to our predictions here?
Let's see. Somebody's asking who will win the blocking game. Back to our featured match. That's a pretty good question.
Yeah. So let's see. THY Istanbul is middle of the pack in Turkey. 15 kill blocks in their last one, though. I don't know, though. I think Dynamo Moscow is a little bit bigger. But if I'm thinking about the attackers on each team and who's, a bit better at avoiding the block, I feel like maybe one of THY's weaknesses is that they are a bit block blind sometimes. So I think probably Moscow is going to get the blocking battle here.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, just coming off of their last Champions League matches, it's difficult to compare because the matchups were so different. But THY had 6 blocks in 3 sets against Novara. Dinamo Moscow had 12 in 3 sets against Liberec. And I mean, again, very different matchups. But I agree that that's one of Moscow's strengths and a little bit of one of THY's weaknesses as an offensive team. I expect Dinamo to win that individual matchup, and I think that's a huge equalizer for THY's strength, like perceived strength in the serve and pass battle. I think they're going to win that in both directions, but Dinamo Moscow can equalize that with either some stuff blocks or some block touches.
Yeah, for sure. And those little block touches are so important. They're not always showing up on the stat sheet, but those continuations do make a huge difference.
Yeah, can't stress that enough. If you get a good slow down block touch at the highest levels, that's pretty much as good as a free ball a lot of the time.
Yeah, exactly. Especially when you have girls like Vasilieva and Natalia
Goncharova. I'm excited to watch Goncharova. Normally, when you see like a goofy-footed player, I kind of cringe because it just looks weird. But Goncharova is so insane, and she just is still able to hit such incredible angles that it doesn't bother me as much on her side.
So someone earlier said, I think Kiera is stronger than Goncharova now. LOL.
Ooh, and that's a very interesting take. And I mean, we saw it on the big stage this summer with the Russian national team. There's definitely a changing of the guard internationally with the top level female opposites. I mean, all of them are under the age of 25 nowadays. But I think Goncharova proved a little bit this summer that she's not going away just yet. I think she's still elite in all 6 rotations, front and back court. She really is special even into her 30s. I don't think that Van Rijk is at that level just yet. But I am excited to see them go head to head because watching these like elite level, crazy athletic opposites go head to head is always really fun to watch.
I don't know, Rob. Kiera Van Rijk, 5 points per set on 47% attacking in Turkey.
Those to me, big numbers. Big numbers. Yeah,
we're getting up to like Boskovic level. We're getting up to Fedorov Steva level. Like that's what we're talking about with Van Rijk. And maybe she doesn't. She looks a lot better here than on the Canadian national team during Vienna. I will say that.
All right, Dan. All right. I think it's time.
So there's a lot of pressure on you, Rob, because someone earlier, Selim Elkan in the chat was saying that I got the prediction exactly right on our last one. I believe that was you who got it right.
Yeah, I got it right last time. At least I picked Vakitbank 3-2. Vakitbank ended up winning 3-1, and then I picked Dinamo Moscow in 5 last week, and I was dead perfect correct on that one. Dinamo Moscow men, anyway, they came back and reverse swept Warsaw when I had Salvador Hidalgo on the show. So I am 2-0 so far in the young season.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good, Rob. So why don't you start out with your prediction?
Okay, I've got THY. I've got THY 3-1, and the reason why is because they need it more. We can talk about the individual matchups all we want, but the importance of the match to THY, I think, is they really understand the level of pressure and the level that they need to win this match. We talked about them if they go down really 0-2, if they fail to score any points in the standings in their first two matches, they basically got to run the table the rest of the way. That's almost impossible to do in a pool that's this difficult. I think they understand the need to win this match, and I think the serve and pass advantage will be enough for them to outpace the Dinamo Moscow block. So I've got THY in 4. They're also playing at home, if I'm getting that correct. I know I was wrong about that last week about who the home team was.
I would need to check as well, but I'm actually going to go one further, Rob. I'm really bullish on THY Istanbul. A couple people in the chat have said, it is a roll of the dice with Kiera Van Rijk. I agree. She is inconsistent. I always talked about some, like below 20% efficiency games. But I'm feeling good about Kiev today. I can sense it. So I'm going to predict 3-0 for THY Istanbul. I'm not quite convinced by this Dinamo Moscow team. I mean, just if you look at their wins so far, like I said, 5 of their 6 wins are against teams with losing records. Only 1 win against a team, and that team was 5-4. So, they beat Lubridge last week, but that doesn't really tell us anything either. I think we've seen that faced against tough teams. Yes, they took a couple good teams to 5 sets, but eventually I think that THY, their offense and that really good reception line will be too much for them.
I agree with that, and I just looked it up. The match is in Turkey, and if we know one thing, it's that Turkish home fans are one of the great home court advantages in all of volleyball, so I think that certainly helps.
All right. It looks like people are leaving the chat to go watch the game. I think we should as well, Rob.
All right. I think it's about that time. Dan, thanks for joining the show. Everyone, thanks for watching. Hop over to the YouTube stream. It is about that time. First serve coming up in just a couple minutes. We will see you next week on the European Volleyball Show.
Bye, guys.